Honorable Ministers, Ambassadors, distinguished colleagues and friends, and members of the press present herein, good morning. It's afternoon. Good afternoon. I'll speak on finance on behalf of the 48 listed developed countries. There are 48 of us now, but we are told 2, I think, are graduating by next year. But then we have had 1 more into the LDC. So I think finally we'll have 47 by January next year. I'll speak briefly on why we need a climate deal on the Green Climate Fund here at Cancun. The 48 LDCs, they are on average 80% of the population does survive on agriculture. That's on the average. And these are mostly rural based. And generally, if you look at through our NAPAs, the National Adaptation Programs of Action, you'll find out that maybe 80%, if not 100% of all of them have prioritized the agriculture as the priority area to implement, so that we bail out or we assist the 80% of our populations to survive. So in the LDCs, adaptation is our priority. Also, coming from Africa, Malawi, adaptation is also a priority for the African group. And this has been endorsed by the heads of state and government in the African Union. Of course, following the IPCC fourth assessment report, on the road to Copenhagen last year, we initiated our calculations, of course, looking at the various estimates that have been presented before us. In the LDC group, we came up with this 1.5% of the Annex 1 GDP to be like the scales of financing that we need for the climate change actions. And this, if you go into the LCA finance text, you'll get the 1.5%. I think it's been the consensus or the agreed upon a figure that we are using, that if we get at least 1.5% of the Annex 1 GDPs, then we can maybe be able to implement climate change actions. This translates to about $600 billion per annum if you look at the Annex 1 GDP. So that's the figure we are using now. Now, the principles, or maybe before I come to the principles, also in the LDCs group, of course also going into the African group, we are calling for at least whatever we get here at Cancun in the new fund. We are saying that we are lobbying for at least 60% of that amount to be channeled into adaptation. That's our call anyway from the LDCs, of course, and the African group. We're saying whatever amount we get, resources we get, can we have at least 60% of that to go into adaptation? As I've said earlier, that adaptation is the priority for the LDCs, also for the African group. We have gone further, and as we went to Copenhagen last year, and also this year in our opening remarks by the LDC chair, we have gone further to say that if we get 60% of the resources in the new fund channeled towards adaptation, can then we also go further and get 60% or 70% of that other 60% to come to the LDCs. Remember, we have an LDC fund, which currently the contributions into the fund from the donor countries is voluntary, and we currently have about 400 million US dollars. The 48 NAPAs that are there, we are approximating 2 billion US dollars to be in the fund, so that we can then at least be able to implement the actions, the activities or the concepts in our NAPAs. So at least $2 billion, but currently we have about $400 million. I'm told there have been pledges made. I think by this January we'll reach up to maybe $600 million. We appreciate the support being given by those donor countries into the LDC fund. Now, some of the principles, the key principles that we are looking for to be in the new fund include accessibility, and we have called for direct access, of course, in the LDC group. If we can have direct access to make our request to the LDC fund or into the new climate fund easier, so that we are able to address the urgent and immediate needs in the NAPAs fully, but also the medium and long-term actions. So accessibility through direct access if we can, but also the predictability. Remember, as I said, the LDC fund currently, which we feel in the LDC group is the fund that we easily can access, because the other funds, the Special Climate Change Fund and the others, it means we are competing with the major developing countries, and it's not very easy. Looking at our national circumstances, the way we are established at country level as the LDCs, it's not very easy to submit projects into the other funds for us to get the funding. So the LDC fund, since it's our own, it's easier for us to get the funds from there. We are also looking at if we have this new fund established here, can we have it under the authority of the COP? Of course, the guidance and accountability of the COP as well, but we are looking at the authority, so that as a COP, we're able to also make decisions on it and then give the guidance, and then it becomes accountable to the COP. We, in our text, in the submissions that we have made, we have also proposed for the standing committee and, of course, the board of the fund that will manage, of course, will spearhead this new fund, to have an equitable and balanced representation. And we have called for at least maybe 2 members to sit in the standing committee from the LDC group, now as LDCs, and also in the board, if we could have our representation in the board of the fund. Of course, we have considered in our proposal we have considered gender, the gender side as well, so that gender issues should be taken into account as well in the representation of the committee as well as the board of the fund, as we maybe finalize at COP17 in Durban in South Africa next year. Of course, we are looking for public financing to be the main source of the resources into the new fund. In the LDC group, it's difficult for us to go into the markets, because we, maybe even none of us, except maybe 1 or 2, have been able to even do projects on the CDM. So our market level to generate resources is very low. So we are looking at the public financing into this fund as the main source of the fund. And Maybe finally, because I was told you will just speak for 5 minutes, but finally is to say that yeah, I've mentioned about the ODC fund, and we have also just 2-3 days ago, the ODC group in the SBI, we have reached conclusions and of course draft decisions on the extension of the lake mandate for another 5 years. And we hope that that extension will be able to, if we have enough resources, adequate resources in the ODC fund, then we'll be able to go into implementation of the rest of the 5 elements in the LDC work program, which was adopted in 2001 at Marrakesh in Morocco. So far, the emphasis has been on just the NAPAs, development and implementation of the NAPAs. But we want to go beyond the NAPAs, do full adaptation actions for the medium and then long term, but also implement there are 6 elements in the LDC work program. So the 5, we haven't really gone into their implementation. So we hope that we'll go into those 5 as well in the next 5 years with the new mandate of the lake. And then we move out from there. Otherwise, I'll stop there for now, Mr. Chair. And I thank you for your attention. Thank you.